the pace car driven by Bill France, is going to be pulling off now, I believe. He is, and the green flag is out. Here they come, and watch them roar down here. 46 of the fastest cars in the world. Here they come. It's a good start. Real good start as Goldsmith and Petty vie for the lead as they go down the straightaway and approach that first turn. And it is Goldsmith on the inside who has a slight lead. And you can see the paper is blowing around here. It's a tremendous vacuum. And wind gusts are set up by these cars. Great turbulence down on the track right now as they whiz by, going right up to full speed on this high bank tri-oval. There they go down the backstretch. It's Goldsmith in a red car, a Plymouth, followed by Richard Petty in the blue car, and in third place is Bobby Isaac, car number 26 in the 64 Dodge. Very close as they have gone away from the rest of the pack here. In fourth place, Buck Baker, then Jimmy Pardue, Davey Pearson, A.J. Foyt, and by for the first time, and they did it in a little bit over 52 seconds. Wow, that's about 173 miles an hour. Look at that paper fly. And it's still Goldsmith in the lead, Petty in second place, and car number 26, Bobby Isaac, is in third. The qualifying speed, the top qualifying speed, an all-time record, 174.910, and they're at least that on that first lap. Just almost unbelievable. Bucky Blackburn has already gone out of the race in a Plymouth. Doug Cooper is out, so we've had two cars go out already, and I imagine at this pace, many more are going to drop by the wayside before long. It's still Goldsmith, Petty, and Isaac. And here is Petty on the inside now, and he's going to take the lead. Car number 43, Richard Petty has got the lead. And Goldsmith is back in second place, and Isaac is in third. So Richard Petty has taken over the lead there on the inside in that 64 Plymouth. We'll be back in just a moment with more from the Daytona 500. The Gillette Safety Razor Company is bringing you this segment of ABC's Wide World of Sports. We're in the middle of the seventh lap right now, and Richard Petty has the lead. And look at Bobby Isaac close up on him in that bright red 64 Dodge, and he's going to get him, I believe. Bobby Isaac has taken the lead from Richard Petty. Petty in car number 43, Isaac in number 26. Look at them battle it out. They've left many of the cars behind them. And here they come down in front of the home stands. It looks like Petty now has hooked on for a little bit of a draft. It could be that he's trying to slow up a little bit to save some fuel. He's had some great speed. Unofficially, we had him up around the 174 mark, and get this, the official time on lap number 6, a new all-time record, 175.095 miles an hour. Here's Lorenzen getting his draft. Let's get down to Sterling Moss now and get his impression. Sterling?
I see that Petty's now dropped back to get his 5 laps, I guess, of tow to save his gas. He told me that although he hasn't got a fuel gauge, as one knows it, he's got a pressure gauge, which as soon as he sees it flick, he must come in and stop and take off on gasoline. Now, in the other race that he was in, he lost it by literally inches. And I must say, at that time, I felt that he slightly misjudged because he had 20 seconds speed just before the end of the race, and then on the last lap he ran out of gas. Okay, Bill, thanks. Back to you.
All right, Sterling, I'm sure it's noisier down there than it is inside a race car. Now here's Wendell Scott coming into the pits, and here's Richard Petty going to take the lead again. Petty has retaken the lead from Bobby Isaacson. Look at Petty go in that light blue Plymouth. Great speeds that they have shown here in the first 10 laps. Petty in front, Isaac in second place. And this might serve a good place to get a word with Richard Petty. A little bit earlier, Chris Economaki talked to this tall, lanky driver from Randleman, North Carolina, who's only 26 years old, whose father is his crew chief. So let's go to that interview right now with Richard Petty.
Richard, you ran out of gas in your 100-mile qualifying race. What kind of strategy are you going to use today?
Well, I hope my strategy is a little bit different so I won't run out of gas, but the way I run the race will probably be used about the same way today. We'll run just as hard as we can, and when we need something, we'll come in and get it.
How many pit stops do you foresee?
Well, the way I run Friday, I'll have to make 5, but if I can get dressed and everything, we might possibly make it on 4, but we'll probably have to make that last one just maybe 4 or 5 gallon gas.
All right, Wendell Scott back onto the track now. In car number 34, they had to click. Uh-oh, what's that? There's a spin right in front of us down here, and he's got it under control. It's car number 16, Darrell Derringer, who spun right in front of the grandstand in his 64 Mercury, and he's going to continue in the race. Going to go back out there. He got his car a little bit out of shape, apparently, and held on to it. Great sigh of relief goes up as he goes out. And there's another car slowing down. It is number 22, Fireball Roberts. Fireball Roberts slowing down in his 64 Ford in the backstretch. 2 more cars in the pits, Chris.
Plymouth and Dodgers are having early race trouble here with 2 drivers who were given great chances of winning in the pits. Bobby Isaac in car 26 and his teammate, Paul Goldsmith, number 25, in the pits with trouble. Sterling Moss is down there. We'll wait for him to get back with a report.
Okay, Chris, more things really happening fast. Here's another car, blown engine. Looks like he's smoking. It's Bobby Johns, car number 7 in a Pontiac. And looks like he is going to be slowing down and coming in. You saw Fireball get out of his car, so he's out of it. And with Isaac in and Goldsmith in, car's overheating. All that paper and debris you see, apparently sucked into the radiators, is going to give him a lot of trouble, especially with his fantastic speed. Keep our eye on Bobby Johns here. I don't even know if they're going to try to service this car or not. Smoking very badly, and that usually is a telltale sign. Here's Tiny Lund's car in. That's all for Bobby Johns, and Tiny Lund's car is there. And look at the paper they've taken off the grill work. He's having the same kind of problem. Tiny Lund, however, is back and going out onto the track. Things really happening every second here. You can't even take your eyes off this 2.5 mile oval. But we imagine there's going to be plenty of activity down in that pit area, so stand by, fellas. Looks like it's going to be a busy afternoon. Richard Petty going down that backstretch now, and still hasn't had a lap under 170 miles an hour. Here's Fred Lorenzen coming in. Car number 28, Freddie Lorenzen, NASCAR winner of last year, all-time money winner. Here goes Chris Economaki across the track there. Chris, as soon as you get your headset on, if you can get us an observation here. Chris?
Well, the problem here seems to be paper in the radiator. One of the first jobs the mechanic does here is get paper out of the radiator. The front of Freddie Lorenzen's car clogged with paper. And in addition to changing the inside tire, the mechanic is just about one of the foot is not latched down. Nelson Stacy on the board. One of the pit man almost got carried away with the car. Driver Nelson Stacy assisting here in Lorenzen's pit. Okay.
All right, thank you, Chris. And here is our leader. This is Richard Petty, car number 43. And he's still got a real good lead. Let's go down to Sterling Moss now. Sterling, you have
Well, thanks very much, Bill. I've just got back from the pits of the Plymouth and Dodgers, and Goldsmith and Isaac and Pardew were all in with overheating trouble. Goldsmith actually overheated much more than the others, but they were all full up with paper in the radiators. They pulled them out, a couple made tire changes, and then they're off. Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you, Sterling. That car is 06 with Bobby Marshman, who was into the pits, and he's back out again. So Richard Petty is really setting a pace for these fellas here today, and we'll be back with more action from the Daytona 500 in just a moment on ABC's Wide World of Sports. Richard Petty in the lead on this 38th lap. It comes the time now when most of these cars are going to have to start making pit stops. Paul Goldsmith in car number 25, right behind Petty, is really a lap behind him because Pearson, A.J. Foyt, Parnelli Jones, and Marv Pinch are in there for 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th. And Goldsmith is actually running 6th, but as soon as they pit, of course, he could move back up into the lead. Now, Goldsmith had that quick pit stop. Don't know, really, whether he got fully serviced or not. Here's Petty slowing down, and his pit crew is getting ready for him. So that means that Dave Pearson now has taken over the lead. A.J. Foyt is in 2nd. Parnelli Jones is 3rd. Pinch is 4th. They have pit stops to make, and here comes Richard Petty, and Buck Baker's coming in too, the sister car to this one. So let's go down to the pit area and Chris Economaki. Chris?
Buck Baker Richard Petty. Both have come in, apparently out of gas because of the slow speed which they approach their pits. The tough job for the Petty pit crew because two cars in at the same time. Richard's car is getting more attention than his Buck's car. Tires going on the outside of the Petty machine. Gas in, and this is frantic down here. The tires are being rolled around. Cornelli Jones is now in the pit. It looks as though this is the routine time for that row of first pit stops. Or rather, one of the Mercuries, not Cornelli Jones, one of the other Mercuries is in, and they're blowing the paper out from the radiator. The litter that's collected on the radiators is now an added job for the pitmen to perform, to get these radiators clean. Baker goes out, running over one of his tires, and Richard goes back into the contest.
Okay, Chris, and here is Paul Goldsmith, who has a great opportunity now to get into the lead. As soon as Pearson and Foyt and Jones and Page come on in, so Goldsmith is running in real good spot here in that bright red 64 Plymouth. And here comes A.J. Foyt. A.J. Foyt is coming into the pit area, and let's go down to him. Chris?
A.J. Foyt comes in for a fueling stop. And without waiting to check, they jack the right side of the car up to change the tires there. One can of gas in, two cans of gas in. And Foyt's the calmest man on the car. Tire wear is being measured with needle-like gauges by the Goodyear technician to see whether or not it's time for a change. Now they're getting more than two cans in. Foyt must have been out of gas. These cans hold only 10 gallons, and they put two in, and they're topping off a little bit with a third one. And they're sending him on his way.
Okay, A.J. is back out there now, but Pearson, Page, and Jones have come on in, and they've been serviced during that pit stop. A lot of frantic activity, as Chris told you. And look at Richard Petty move there to the left of your picture, car number 43, really going now, trying to catch Paul Goldsmith in car number 25. He's about a half a lap behind him. Marvin Page in car number 21 there is a lap back. So Petty now has his work cut out for him, and the question will be, is Goldsmith going to be coming into the pit? That'll be the thing that everybody's going to be wondering about. But the Goldsmith is going to have to come back into the pit area to get some gasoline and get some tires. Paul Goldsmith now races out of Mexico City, and one of the most knowledgeable drivers around. Chris Economaki talked to him earlier.
How about the wind?
The wind, I think a lot of it depends on your automobile. And this car that I'm driving, a 64 Plymouth, it just doesn't seem to affect it. I've run in 30-mile-an-hour winds, and I'm not too hampered by the wind.
Paul Goldsmith, pole starter today.
Okay, just during that time, Goldsmith came into the pit. Just during that time, we took out to go to that pre-recorded interview, and Richard Petty now has regained the lead. So Goldsmith will be going back out on the track. We'll be back in just a moment with more action from the Daytona 500 in just a moment on ABC's Wide World of Sports. We're on the 53rd lap right now, and here's the leader, Richard Petty. The average speed for 50 laps, 168.539 miles per hour. And this tremendous pace has taken its toll of some of the name drivers and cars. Freddie Lorenzen in a 64 Ford is out with a transmission trouble. Bobby Marshman in a 64 Ford out with an overheated engine. Bobby Johns in a 64 Pontiac blew up. You saw that one happen, car number 7. And Fireball Roberts quit on the backstretch with transmission trouble in the 64 Ford. So right now, Richard Petty out in front. And, there's trouble up in the front of the stretch right here. A car has kissed the wall. It's car number 6, David Pearson, running in second place right now. It looked like the right front tire blew out. Parts of that tire scattered all over the track, and that car just hugged the wall. Thank heaven for that, because there was a lot of traffic behind him. Here we can see movement in the car. Pearson appears to be all right. He's going to be climbing out of there. Now the question is, how is he going to get off the track? Cars are still moving down. He's got about a 12-foot wall to get over. The yellow flag is out, and the pace car has moved out onto the track. Bill France sensing immediately now that they're going to have to get that car off the railing and get Pearson off to the infield. So they've slowed down considerably, and now they're pulling the car off the track, and there's lots of oil out there, so it's going to be some time before the green light goes on again.
Right now, we're going to take a short break from our 500-mile race here at Daytona and switch to Ishpeming, Michigan, to Suicide Hill in the National Ski Jumping Championship.
A.J. Foyt in that red and white Ford 00 on the roof is in second place. He is on the same lap as Richard Petty, but he's a good 3/4 of a lap behind, and the rest of these cars are a lap behind those first two cars. Jimmy Pardue in a 64 Plymouth. Now there's Marvin Panch in 21, Ned Jarrett in 11. So now let's get a word from our racing expert, Sterling Moss, in the pit area. Sterling, you want to come in for just a second here?
Well, over here in the pit, the big question is, will number 43, will he be able to keep ahead without a draft and not have to stop one extra time for gas? Because the others are bunched up behind him, quite a long way behind him, it's true, but they're using each other's draft to keep going at a high speed. Will 43 Petty, will he be able to keep going and cut down one stop? Well, anyway, over to you, Bill.
All right, Sterling, and right now, Richard Petty is moving into a little bit of traffic. We're going to try to pick up a timing on him to see what kind of a pace he's setting here as he goes around this tri-oval at the Daytona International Speedway. Keep in mind that if he does it in 53 seconds flat, he'll be at 170 miles an hour average speed. This means that at times he can be doing in excess of 180. Incidentally, at the end of 90 laps, and we're on the 96th right now, the speed dropped down to 159 plus. But that was due primarily to 8 laps under the caution light due to Davy Pearson hitting the wall. Because earlier they'd been running about 169 miles an hour and it dropped off, but it looks like he has picked it up considerably since that time. So here is Richard Petty coming around, and we'll head down the home stretch in front of the grandstands here before a tremendous crowd of more than 80,000 racing fans. Here he comes. 52.6. And that is calibrated to 171.102 miles per hour for Richard Petty in that 64 Plymouth, who right now is leading as we come very close to the halfway point. Remember, however, he's got to make a pit stop here before too much longer. He took one at 38, another one at 56 under the caution light. And now A.J. Foyt really moving, and Marvin Panch hooked right on there, drafting him. And there's Darrell Derringer coming up rather quickly after that rather disastrous spin earlier in the afternoon. So A.J. trying to pick up ground on Petty. And let's see if we can get an interval between these two cars right now to give you an accurate appraisal of just how far A.J. is behind. It looks like it's going to be at least 2 miles over this 2.5-mile track. You know, there's 4 solid hours of sports entertainment Saturday afternoons on most of these ABC stations. Challenge Golf leads off the lineup, and it's followed by the exciting Professional Bowlers Tour. Then ABC's Wide World of Sports completes the triple header with an hour and a half of the top athletic events from all over the world. And boy, this is one of the top ones right here, the 6th annual Daytona 500. Speed's unbelievable, as Richard Petty forcing many of the cars out with a blistering pace. There it is, 41 seconds A.J. has to make up. That's just a little bit over 2 miles. Now let's hear what A.J. had to say before the race. Chris Economaki interviewed him.
A.J., with the speeds going up and up here at Daytona, does your Indianapolis experience stand you in good stead?
Well, yes, Chris. All the experience I've had through stock cars, midget sprints, and everything add up to this here, and I think it helps you in the time.
How about this drafting technique? Is it more important today than it has in the past?
Well, yes, Chris, because we're having to draft. It seems like the Dodges and Plymouths are a little bit faster than we are, but the other day I was lucky enough to hook onto one and draft them, and that's what I intend to do today, is just try to draft all day long.
What about fuel consumption, A.J.? Do you save fuel when you're drafting?
Yes, Chris, I do think you save a little bit. You don't save a whole lot, but it could mean making that last lap or 2.
How many pit stops do you foresee?
Well, I imagine we'll have to make 5, Chris.
Okay, and here comes Richard Petty into the pits right now. So let's get on him right now because A.J.'s now in the lead. Chris?
There's Richard Petty coming in. car number 43, goggles down and a big smile on his face as he rolls into the pits here for a routine pit stop, and a happy pit crew goes over there. They're checking that right side tires. The jack goes up. Tire technicians measure the tread wear with their measuring devices. And the work is going on. They're handing water into him on the stick. The number of men that can work in the pit is limited by the rules. Richard Petty leading this race by a wide margin. Waits while his car is worked on, and it seems a long wait for drivers in this particular situation in the race. There he goes, 31 and a half seconds, and he's back on the road. Okay, Bill.
Okay, and AJ took the lead, but he's going to be coming into the pit right now, so it was very short-lived. And he's coming into the pit area, AJ Foyt in 00, that 64 Ford. So Petty will still retain the lead. Here he comes.
A.J. Foyt was doing a tremendous job out here today, drafting that Ford, which is a slower car in the qualifying trials. A.J. stops for Banjo Matthews' crew to go to work on his machine. Front and rear tires being changed on the right side. And A.J. talks to the mechanic. He gets the drink served by hand. As the seconds tick away, the pits where the races are won and lost in many cases. Excellent work being done here today. His stop is going to run a bit longer than Richard Petty's stop. Banjo Matthews, the bespectacled chief mechanic and foreman driver, sends him on his way in less than 40 seconds.
Okay, it was about 6 seconds longer, however, than Petty's stop. So Petty has almost now 1 lap ahead of A.J. Foyt. We'll be back in just a moment with more action in the Daytona 500 on ABC's Wide World of Sports. Well, at this point in the race, with 90 laps to go, 19 cars have dropped out, and the latest was Parnelli Jones, who went out with a bent pushrod in his 64 Mercury. So there are 27 cars. 26 of them are chasing this light blue Plymouth, car number 43, Richard Petty. He is now 1 lap ahead of everybody else, and they're all back in the pack in a good battle going on for 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th. Paul Goldsmith currently in 2nd, A.J. Foyt in 3rd, Pardue is in 4th, Panch in 5th, and Pascal in 6th. Let's get an observation here from Sterling Moss.
Thanks, Bill. Now, one thing I think that's most interesting is that these cars are lapping this track at somewhere around 175 miles an hour, which means that their maximum speed on the back straightaway is over 180, which in turn, once again, means that when they're in the draft of a car in front, if they pull out and pass him on the straightaway, they're most likely approaching 185 miles an hour. That's going stuff for my money. Right, back to you, Bill.
That it is, Sterling. Thank you. We'll be getting back to you very shortly. And here is Richard Petty really moving now. And a good battle going on back in the pack for 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th place. These cars trying to pick up some ground on... Oh, there's a car upside down on the backstretch. Apparently, Jarrett in 11, you can't see him in your picture, but here's Rutherford upside down. Jarrett in 11 is up the track from him. Apparently they tangled, and Rutherford, with sparks flying as the roof of that car went grinding down the track, got upside down. Fortunately, there's no fire there, and we're waiting now anxiously to see whether Rutherford's going to get out of that car. The crash wagon is over there. There he comes. He's all right. He crawls out, and there is Jarrett's car, and you can see that they tangled somewhere. It happened so quickly we couldn't see it. But all of a sudden, Johnny Rutherford in 01 was upside down. And now they're making some precautionary, putting some precautionary foam there. And the yellow flag is out, and Petty is going to come into the pit right now. He's going to come in under the caution flag.
Here's Richard Petty, car 43, the leader, getting a break with the yellow flag coming in for the pit stop. Takes his time now. This will be a great break for Petty. For rather than losing a lap, he'll get the work done, back on the track, and get back onto the tail end of the track, which will be stacked up behind the safety car. And as a consequence, he'll get a pit stop in and only lose perhaps 200 yards on his nearest competitor, which is Paul Goldsmith in car number 25. Coolness prevails in the pits here. They sort of feel that they haven't won in the Petty pit. His racing dad, who was a champion before him, ran running the pit operation on this very fast 1964 Plymouth. And they send him away. That's it.
Okay, Chris, the yellow caution light's still out, clearing up that debris on the backstretch. And A.J. Foyt probably will take an opportunity. He's slowed way down. A.J. currently running in third place. Goldsmith is running in second. And A.J. is now coming into the pit area, Chris.
And A.J. Foyt, the third place driver, the 00 Ford, is in the pits now. And this time it's under the hood for some work. The addition of oil. These engines are really straining to maintain these close to 170-mile-an-hour speeds. Foyt calls to his pit crew. The roar of the engine here makes it very difficult to understand what he's asking for. He's an insistent driver. He's taking a drink. He hates to see those cars passing him on the straightaway. Indianapolis winner, three-time national open cockpit champion, A.J. Foyt of Houston, car 00, been up with the runners ever since the green flag fell today.
Okay, now the cars will be running under the caution light for quite a few laps till they get the parts off the track that were scattered there after the Jarrett and Rutherford accident. Nobody was hurt in the accident, so we're very happy about that. We're coming down to the climax of this race, and Richard Petty is still out in front, just as he was when we left you a short time ago. However, several cars have dropped out. A.J. Foyt, who put up such a gallant battle in that 64 Ford, blew his engine on the 127th lap. He's out of it. Jim McElreath blew a tire out on the 126th, and his 64 Merc hit the fence. He's out of it. And earlier, as you know, Parnelli Jones went out, Buck Baker was out, Pearson was out, Lorenzen out, Marshman, Johns, and Fireball Roberts. And, of course, Johnny Rutherford and Ned Jarrett both out as they tangled on the backstretch. And just before we left you there, you saw Rutherford skidding down that backstretch on his back. And right now, Richard Petty, with 41 laps to go, in a prime position. He's got one more pit stop to make. Standing by right now with Chris Economaki is Johnny Rutherford. Let's get the story on that accident.
This is Johnny Rutherford, who was involved in that spectacular backstretch flip. Johnny, what caused it?
Well, the way it appeared to me, Ned Jarrett and I were running together. There's a situation that arises down here with the wind and the drafts, and Jarrett's car pulled the back end of mine around, and I started sliding, and I must have slid out in front of him, and then he hit me with the front of his car, and I started flipping.
How about when you got upside down? Was it a wild ride? Were you shaken up badly?
Not too badly. I'm starting to get a little stiff. It was a pretty rough ride. The main thing was getting the sparks from the top. It was sliding right upside down, and the sparks from the top was burning me, just like welding without a shirt. And
how far along did you go upside down?
Oh, I would judge about 300, maybe 400 yards, Chris. It was quite a ride. I didn't know where I was or if I was going to get hit again or just exactly what was going on. I just hung on and covered up, and everything worked out pretty good.
Johnny Rutherford after a wild ride.
Okay, Chris, and we're very happy in that spectacular accident that neither Ned Jarrett or Johnny Rutherford was hurt. Johnny did make the comment we received on the teletype. He said to an official, "I felt so foolish when I was upside down because I kept trying to put on the brakes and the car wouldn't slow down." Right now, 21 cars left in the running, and there's the leader, Richard Petty. Now let's go behind the scenes in sports with Newport Filter cigarettes. Still being waged for second place between Jimmy Pardue and car number 54, 64 Plymouth, and Paul Goldsmith, that red Plymouth on the outside. They've been battling each other for that number 2 spot. And, of course, they're still chasing Richard Petty in that Plymouth, who has first place pretty well wrapped up. That is, of course, if he makes a clean pit stop and nothing happens to him during the last 30 laps of this race. Paul Goldsmith still has one stop to make according to our calculations, because he pitted at 143 laps. He'd have to run 57 laps in order to go the rest of the way. Here is Richard Petty coming in, so let's watch this one. Chris?
Standing by in the Petty pit, waiting for this final fuel stop for Richard Petty in car number 43. And here he is, coming in as the mechanics really rush to meet the car. Gasoline, motor, going, let's try and see what he's saying. Stealing Richard Petty's words as he waits for the work. His face is clean. He looks very calm. In fact, the inside of the car is absolutely immaculate. Tremendous noise down here as he revs the engine high. In fact, this new Plymouth still has the warranty sticker on the rear quarter window. And there he goes. Richard Petty on his way to what looks like an impressive record-breaking victory in the Daytona 500.
Okay, Chris, he was 2 laps in front of the other cars when he went in. He still has a 1-lap lead over the other cars in the field. Now here's Marvin Patch, who's hooked onto the tailgate of Dan Gurney, trying to get a little boost from him, as has Paul Goldsmith to the back end of car 54, driven by Jimmy Pardue. So Pardue has the lead, but as mentioned earlier, Pardue would only have to run 42 laps on his fuel and tires, and Goldsmith would have to go 57, and that's almost an impossibility, so Goldsmith certainly is going to have to come back in. He's really making a battle out of it, though. And it looks like he's picking up a little bit on Jimmy Pardue. As you can imagine, Jimmy getting some good-natured ribbing by the number of that car. And he goes by him. Goldsmith has moved into second place over Pardue. So right now, we've got 3 Plymouths, a Ford and a Dodge in the first 5. And Petty is still turning laps at a better than 170 miles an hour, so he hasn't let off the gas one single bit. He wants to win this race and win it big. Let me remind you that in this Olympic year of 1964, the athletes representing the United States need both the loyal and financial support of the American public. Please help with your contributions, sending them to Olympic House, Department A, New York, New York. And the zip code number is 10016. The American Broadcasting Company has pledged to raise $250,000 for the U.S. Olympic Committee. And now we're coming to a windup of a very exciting afternoon here at Daytona, with Paul Goldsmith trying desperately to hang on to that second place and Jimmy Pardue chasing him. And Richard Petty has a lap on both of those cars. So all he'd have to do is just keep it running, and he'd be in good shape. And look at Pardue make his move now, moving up, and it looks like he's going to take Goldsmith. Jimmy Pardue moving into second place. Goldsmith dropping way back, and it could be that Goldsmith is going to come in. We'll take a check down here in this pit area. Goldsmith's crew getting ready, and it could be he's going to stop. So, Chris, if you're there, we'll tip you off that the Goldsmith may be coming in. Here he comes. And so Pardue has moved into second. Chris?
Goldsmith in car 25, the second place Plymouth, had to give up that number 2 spot to make a pit stop here in the latter stages of this 500-mile race. The tires have been smoking as they come in the pits. The right rear wheel is locking up. That shows how these cars are jacked with the weight to the left. It looks like it's strictly for gasoline. And there's the word, sending him on his way. A very fast pit stop.
Okay, we'll be back in just a moment with the exciting climax of the Daytona 500 on ABC's Wide World of Sports. Now a word about Vitalis. Richard Petty. A little bit over a lap to go now in that 64 Plymouth. The white flag will be out for him. He'll have 2.5 miles to go once he gets it. As he comes by everybody standing now, what a great race he's had here today. And the white flag is given to him as the battle goes on for second place. Jimmy Pardue in a Plymouth and Paul Goldsmith in a Plymouth. But officially, Goldsmith is 1 lap behind Pardue. Frankly, I don't think Goldsmith knows it because he's been battling him right bumper to bumper practically for the last 5 or 6 laps. But Pardue has 1 lap on Goldsmith. And all the attention now on Petty as he streaks down the backstretch. From Randleman, North Carolina, he's married, he has 2 children, another one on the way. He's been racing since 1958, but he's never won a big one. And he isn't far from doing it today. He was second in point standings last year, a very consistent driver, but that big one has always eluded him. Now all of his pit crew is out, and here he comes. The checkered flag is out and ready for Richard Petty. The last lap he turned was 170 miles an hour, so he hasn't slacked off a bit, and there's the checkered flag for Richard Petty, the winner of the 6th annual Daytona 500. Well, before going down to the victory lane, we've got to get to the finish here between 54 and 25. Pardue coming across ahead of Paul Goldsmith, but as I mentioned earlier, Goldsmith was 1 lap behind, so the Plymouths finished 1, 2, and 3 with Pardue officially in second place and Goldsmith in third. Marv Panch will place 4th, and Pasco will be 5th. I'd like to thank William H.G. French, the president of the Daytona International Speedway, and Bill French Jr. for all their help. Also, all of the officials of NASCAR for all the help they've been to us in a perfectly run race. Nobody could agree with that statement more than Richard Petty right now. For him, it was a perfect race. Down there in that wild melee of victory lane, everybody will be moving over. Chris Economaki is moving toward the area, and we'll try to get a word with the new champion. A happy guy he must be, too, and very glad to get that crash helmet off. Look at the crowd moving toward him now. The new champion. Let's go down to Chris.
Here's the winner, Richard Petty of Randleman, North Carolina. Richard, how long have you been in this racing business?
Oh, about 5 years now.
This your biggest victory?
This is it. This is the first time I ever won on a major speedway.
Now, your father was a champion before you. How much longer are you going to be in this business?
Well, I guess from now on, just like he is.
You've got $30,000 coming to you. Do you have any idea of how it's going to be spent?
Well, it'll go for some more cars, I imagine. Being they run that good, we ought to get a couple more.
How about the race, Richard? Did you have any problems with any other drivers, any that you thought might beat you?
Well, right at the first of the race, I was worried particularly about Goldsmith. Then Isaac come up there, and they had a little bit of trouble, and then it was particularly all over with.
You made 6 pit stops. Why so many?
We made 3 or 4 under caution flags in order to keep them having to stop under the green, and it worked out that way. We didn't lose a lap when we stopped.
Richard Petty, winner of the Daytona 500 and a thinking driver.
Well, no one driver has ever won the Daytona 500 twice in a row, but the Pettys have come just about as close to that as they could do it. The father, Lee Petty, won the first Daytona 500 in '59, and his son came back, Richard, today, and won it 5 years later. And in so doing, he set a new record for the 500 miles, 154.334 miles per hour, better by 2 miles an hour over the old record held by Fireball Roberts. And not only that, but get this, 1 lap he turned at 175.095 miles an hour. Whereas the Fords finished 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 a year ago, the Plymouths finished 1, 2, and 3 today. Richard Petty, Jimmy Pardue, and Paul Goldsmith, the first 3, Marvin Panch in a Ford, and Jim Pascal in a Dodge was 5th. So that's pretty much the story of a very exciting day here at the Daytona 500.